Forecast.
Hey guys, this is a weekly forecast for April 19th through the 23rd of 2021. Alright, we'll start off with the Euro-USD pair. This is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. Alright, so since this price action right here is very strong short, and this move still having a ways to go, in the long term, we are short biased right back down to this pivot low as a target. However, in the medium term, because of a breakout of this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here, roughly 8 months ago, in the medium term, we are long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. Now there's one more thing. Because of recent price action still having strength down, in the short term, we are short biased right back down to this pivot right here. Okay, so to sum that up, in the long term, we are short biased right down to this pivot low here. And in the medium term, we are long biased right up to this pivot high. However, in the short term, we are short biased right down to this level right here. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is a weekly chart. Here's the setup we've been looking at for the past couple of months. So there was a strong short trade, then a week long trade formed here. So as price pulled back, we were short biased right back down to that pivot low as a target. And then the same thing repeated. So there was another week long trade that formed. So again, as price pulled back, we're looking for short trades right back down to this pivot low as a target. And now the same thing is happening. So another week long trade formed here. So again, we're just going to let price pull back as much as possible so we could take a short right back down to this pivot low as a target. Alright, let me show you some possible levels that short trade can form. Alright, we'll stay on this weekly chart. So one level is this trend line from this pivot to this pivot. And the other one is from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now price just touched this first trend line right here. However, because it closed so high on the open of next week's candle, it is likely that price will surpass this trend line. So a surpassed trend line is no longer usable. So let's just get rid of it. Now if you don't understand what I'm talking about in terms of surpassed trend lines, please watch lesson 5 through 7 of my price action trading course, and that'll teach you all you need to know about trend lines. Okay, so this trend line right here is a possible level that we could get that short trade right back down to this pivot low as a target. So what we want price to do is at this trend line level, we want price to begin to have compact price action at this level. Now that compact price action could be on the daily 4-hour or 1-hour charts. Moreover, if we simply get a strong daily or 4-hour trade to form on this weekly trend line level, then possibly that'll give us a trade right back down to this short-term target right here. Alright, there's one more thing I want to mention, so let me take you to the daily chart. Okay, so on the daily chart, the last short trade that formed was right here. And it is very possible that price already hit its daily target. Thus, there is a possibility that price can pull back all the way up here near these levels. However, as long as price doesn't reach this pivot high right here, these deep pullbacks are actually a great thing because it creates more distance to our short-term target right back down here. Alright, so for this week, let's just keep an eye on those weekly trend line levels. Alright, let's go on to the pound dollar. Alright, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. Okay, so we had a week double bottom right here. Now, week double bottoms typically do not go to their target heights. So roughly, that's in this area right here. So in the long term, we are short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. However, in the medium term, since there's a little bit more momentum left in this long move, in the medium term, we are long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. And in the short term, we're waiting for the weekly charts to show some direction, so we are neutral biased. Okay, let's talk entries. Alright, this is a weekly chart. Now the setup we've been looking at for the last month is as follows. So there was a strong short trade right here. Then a week long trade formed. So as price pulled back, we're looking for short entries right back down to that pivot low as a target, and that target was hit on Monday. Now at this point, we're going to wait for another long trade to form, and then we're going to gauge its strength to see if this long trade is stronger than this short trade. Now if that is the case, then that's in line with our medium-term bias, so we'll take that long trade right up to this pivot high as a target. However, on the other hand, if this long trade is weaker than this short trade, then we'll repeat what we've been doing for the last month and let price pull back as much as it can and look for short entries so we could take it right back down to this pivot low as a target. Now, if you don't understand what I'm talking about in terms of weak long trades and strong short trades, please watch lessons 1 through 4 of my price action trading course, and that will clear it up for you. Okay, so let me show you some possible levels where this long trade could form. So let's go over to the monthly chart. All right, so on the monthly chart, try drawing this trend line right here from this pivot to this pivot right here. And also try drawing this horizontal level on this gap level. So it's right here, and the bottom gap is right here. It's very narrow. Okay, so we have a confluence of rather strong levels right here on the monthly chart, with the price level being roughly 1.3620. And let's wait and see if on the weekly chart we could get a long trade on this monthly level. Then we'll gauge its strength, and if it's stronger than that weekly short trade we were talking about, then we'll go ahead and take that long with our medium-term bias right up to this pivot high. Now let me just add one more thing, so let me take you to the daily chart. Alright, so on the daily chart, the last short trade that formed was right here, and the last long trade that formed was right here. Now this long trade was slightly stronger than this short trade, so there is a possibility that price can have a deep pullback right up to these levels, but for the time being, since our setup is based on the weekly chart, let's simply wait for that weekly long trade to form, gauge its strength, and see where we should go from there. Alright, let's go on to the Nzdusd USD pair. Oh, and please subscribe if you like these videos, and please push the like button. It will really help me out, guys. Thank you. Okay, the Nzdusd USD. This is a weekly chart. We'll start off with an overview. Now, since this long move right here, starting from this range right here, was solely based on momentum, in the long term, we are short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. However, in the medium term, since there's a little bit more momentum long left in this move, we are long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. Okay, let's talk entries. Alright, we'll stay on this weekly chart. Now, some possible levels to enter with our medium-term bias were these trend lines from this pivot to this pivot, and another one from this pivot to this pivot. Now, we were talking about how we want compact price action to form on these levels on the daily, 4-hour, or 1-hour charts, and that compact price action was forming. However, it was slightly not compact enough. So let's go check the 4-hour chart. Now, as you can see on the 4-hour chart, price was respecting that weekly trend line level with rather compact price action. However, to me, this compact price action was not compact enough. So the distance between these peaks was not compact enough. I'd much rather have maybe half the distance of each peak for it to be strong long price action. So we were getting compact price action. However, it wasn't enough, according to my preference, to take it up to our medium-term target right up here. Moreover, similar price action was happening from a different perspective. So the last long trade that formed was right here, and all these short trades right here were slightly weaker than this long trade. So I was mentioning we'll likely get a little bit of move up. However, it's not enough for me to take it to our long-term target up here. So at this point, if I want to target this pivot high right here, there's one of two things that I want to happen. Now, the first one is for price to fall all the way back down here again and make an even stronger long trade. Now, this could be on the 4-hour or daily chart. And the other is for price to fall back down here again and begin making even more compact price action on those weekly trendline levels. Now, if either one of those events take place, then I will be comfortable with taking it long, right up to our medium-term target way up here. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind is that if you took this long trade already, I recommend taking targets early. Alright, so let's go on to the dollar-yen pair. Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. Okay, ultimately we're short biased right back down to this 101 pivot low target. However, before that, we're talking about the pullback to 107, then to 109, and then down to 101. So in the long term, we are still short biased right back down to this pivot low. But for the time being, because there's still a little momentum long in this move, and we're waiting for it to slow down, in the medium term, we are neutral biased. Alright, let's talk entries. Alright, this is the weekly chart. Now the first thing we wanted to see in terms of waning long momentum are two red consecutive weekly candles. Now this week, we got that consecutive two red candles right here, thus confirming a little bit of waning momentum long. Now again, we wanted two red weekly candles simply for the reason that this initial long move was based on this weekly long trade. So if there was weekly long momentum up, we want to see weekly waning momentum down on the weekly chart also. Alright, so we're confirming a little bit of waning momentum at this point. Now let's go over to the monthly chart to see some other things we want to be looking for. Okay, on the monthly chart, what we want to see in order to take that long-term short right back down to 101 is as follows. So try drawing this trend line from this pivot to this pivot, and another trend line roughly at these highs right here that's been respected many times. So we do not want to see on the monthly, weekly, or daily charts for price to close above this range right here. For if price does get above this range and close above it, there is a possibility that price could reach this trend line up here from this pivot to this pivot right here, right up to these 117 levels. So again, another thing we want to happen so we could target that long-term target down to here is for price not to close above this range right here. Okay, there's one final thing we want to be looking at to confirm more waning long momentum. So let me just get rid of these and zoom in. Alright, so this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now this trend line is very prominent. Thus this breakout right here, I'm sure many are viewing this as a breakout trade long. Okay, and at this point, price is actually retesting that trend line right here. So the next thing we want to see is for price to break back into this trend line, causing a failure of this breakout. Now we ultimately want to see this failure on the monthly chart, but some things to watch out for is for weekly and daily breakouts back under this monthly trend line level. And for the time being, the weekly chart did not break back into it. So this week, let's just watch the daily charts to see if price could break back under this monthly trend line level. Okay, so let's go on to the Aussie NZD pair. Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So we had a normal double bottom right here against a weak downward trend line from that pivot to this pivot. So in the long term, we were long biased right up to this trend line level right here, or possibly the second target of this pivot high right here. Now last month, our first target was hit right here, and now we're seeing price could get through this trend line to our second target. So in the medium term, we are neutral biased. Okay, so let's talk entries. Okay, this is a daily chart. Now, if we recall, the first attempt to get through that monthly trend line level was on the 4-hour chart at this level right here. And that 4-hour first attempt failed. Now, price is trying to go for another attempt with this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now, if we could get compact price action on the 4-hour and 1-hour charts on this daily trend line level, then possibly we could get through that monthly trend line on this second attempt. Now, if you recall, there's a level that I was talking about that if that price level is reached, price could begin to break down right down to these pivot levels down here. Now that level is this level right here. Now the reason is because on the daily chart, the last long trade was right here. And this is the stop loss level. Now price could even touch this level. Now it does not have to close under it. As long as it touches it, there's a high probability that price could start breaking down right down to these levels. Thus, we're going to have to wait a while for another setup to form for that long-term target right up to that second pivot high target. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind, if you are long this trade, a good place to take profit is if price pulls back and even touches this level. That is a great place to take profits because there's a high possibility that price could fall all the way down here. Okay, so let me show you one last thing in terms of short-term bias. So let me take you to the 4-hour chart. Okay, on the 4-hour chart, there was a fake double top right here that formed. Now, fake double tops typically do not go to its target height, which is right down here. However, in this case, price did reach that target height level. Now, what that tells me in terms of short-term bias is that although there was a fake double top right here, price reached its target height level right here. And that means that although there was strength long in short-term price still pushed it through down. And that shows a lot of short-term strength down. Now, if you don't understand what I'm talking about in terms of fake and legitimate price patterns, please check out lesson 8 and 9 of my price action trading course. So as you can see, due to this fake double top, price did have a lot of short-term pressure down for the last week, showing some momentum down in the short term. However, keep in mind that does not take away the possibility of a second attempt to our monthly target up here. Alright, so that's it for the weekly forecast. I hope you guys have a great week, guys. And thanks for watching. Bye.